This Week at Work is the only show about the workplace that offers you front row seats and a microphone, featuring experts in human resources and employment law to bring you practical, timely, and accurate insights so you can more effectively lead your organization. It's Thursday, August 1st, episode 289. Today, staying ahead in the rapidly evolving landscape of leadership is key. And when you're choosing your path when it comes to developing your leaders, are you budgeting to train current team members or budgeting to replace them? Because as special guest Matt Wideman says, you have to do one or the other. This week, with Phil and Matt's help, we introduce insights from Gartner research and cover real-world success stories from AIM members who are on the cutting edge of developing their people. Plus, Burt will cover what you need to know regarding California's fast food minimum wage increase. All this and more on This Week at Work.
All right. Welcome back, everyone. Happy to be here today. We got a lot of things to talk about. Burt, I'm thinking about what I heard Nick do in the intro there. 289 episodes. We're pushing 5,000 listeners. I'm just shocked. I'm really proud of what we're doing. And I know I'm always expressing my gratitude for you and Nick and everything that we've done to really help so many people every single week. But thank you for being a part of that. By the end of the year, we'll be at 300 episodes.
That's crazy. Mark. Crazy. Who would have thought, Phil? Who would have thought?
I just want to know, who are those 5,000 people listening? What is wrong with them? How poor is their life that they're listening to us every single week?
Is that what we're getting weekly, is 5,000?
Yeah, we're at that 5,000 view mark. Yeah, it's impressive. Yeah. So thank you for that. And let me reintroduce Matt Wideman to everyone that's listening today. Matt is our product manager for training, organizational, and development here at AIM. He has done a great job. Matt, welcome back to the program. Happy to have you join us today.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Great. Happy to have you. Burt, you'll recognize Matt from the investigation training that we did. He was one of the employees that was filing a complaint. He was sexually harassed, remember?
Yes, I recall it well. And I know Matt aside from that, but always good to see Matt not making complaints of sexual harassment in the workplace.
Yeah, absolutely. A little insight on Matt. He has a daughter who is phenomenal at golf. So she is on her way. Hopefully someday we'll watch her on television someday. So
wow.
So it's going to be a lot of fun to watch her through her college experience when she gets there. We're waiting anxiously to see her success. But let's get on with the program.
Real quickly, Matt, how old is she?
She's 16. Just turned 16. So and she's much better than me.
She has a goal to play in college?
That's her goal, yeah.
Amazing.
That's Matt's goal, for her to go to college on a scholarship.
That's absolutely true.
Shared family goal. That's amazing. Well, good luck to her.
Thank you.
All right, so let's kick off our poll questions here. It is which of the following is the poll question? Sorry, let's try this again. Which of the following is the focus of the majority of your training? So are you training for the purposes of development/retention, compliance, or operation and procedures? So kind of curious what that is. Obviously, with Matt on the program, we're going to talk about training today and some of those top trends and get some insight into the conversations Matt has with so many of our members each and every day, week and month. All right, Burt, we got lots to talk about. I want to hear about this minimum wage growth and challenge that they're having out in California, particularly in the fast food industry. So if you're ready, we're going to ask Nick to pull that lever.
Let's go.
Pull it, Nicky.
All right, it's time to look into what's trending in employment law. Lawyer, you're on the clock.
So, of course, with Nick's introduction there, and then with what you just said, Phil, people are probably wondering here in the Midwest and maybe down in Florida, why in the world am I talking about California's fast food or quick service restaurant minimum wage law that went into effect April 1 of 2024, just a few months ago. And, California fancies itself as being sort of the trendsetter across the country. What they do out there sometimes works its way to the other coast, like New York, and then settles in the mid coast, which is Illinois, and then they hope that it spreads across the country
I don't
from
think
there.
the governor of Illinois is going to be outdone by California. I'm just sitting back waiting for this to land right here in the center of the country.
Well, that's exactly right, and that's what they generally hope for when they adopt some of these crazy laws out in California. And so that's why I'm talking about this, just to kind of put things in perspective for people on where things perhaps are going in some of the trends we're seeing across the country. So Phil, most of our listeners are in, and I'm looking down at my notes here, we know that they're in Missouri, Illinois, Indiana, and Florida. And so what I did was I quickly grabbed the minimum wages in all of those states for all of our listeners. And since most of our listeners are in Missouri, Missouri's minimum wage right now is $9.45 an hour. Next door to us is Illinois, where the minimum wage is $14 an hour. Next to them is Indiana, where where the minimum wage is $7.25, which matches the current federal minimum wage, which is followed by 34 states. So 34 states match Indiana with following the federal minimum wage. And for our listeners down in Florida, the minimum wage is $12 per hour. So not to be outdone by anyone, California's minimum wage is $16 an hour, except like I said before, they implemented something that went effective April 1, 2024, and they have certain industries that have higher minimum wages. And this new law that went into effect pertains particularly to the fast food industry. And they set the fast food industry minimum wage at $20 per hour. So if you think about that, you've got Missouri at $9.45, you've got Illinois at 14, you've got Indiana.
I might have to quit the job I'm doing and go serve some fast food.
Yeah,
what are they? Whataburgers? Is that what it is there?
There's a big Whataburger and In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out Burger. That's what I was thinking of. Yeah.
So, you've got Indiana and 34 other states at 7.25, Florida at 12, and then you've got California now for fast food at $20 per hour. And it was really interesting because I saw an article on this that referred to a study by the Employment Policies Institute that was just released. And so, of course, after reading that article, I went to look at the study itself. And that can be found on the internet. Again, it's the Employment Policies Institute, and it's got a ton of interesting information in it. And it's title of the study is called Crisis in California, a survey of fast food employers' responses to California's $20 minimum wage. And so the study is about a total of 12, 13, 14, 15 pages, somewhere in there, depending on whether you count the footnotes pages and so on. But there's some really interesting statistics in here. So what they did was they surveyed 182 limited service restaurant operators in California in June and July of this year. This survey has a margin of error of 7%, which is, kind of high for a survey, but it was a scientifically done study with a margin of error. And what this study found was really pretty shocking. And so I wanted to share a few of those things there. And I know Nick's got a few of these tables from the study that he could share, but a majority of the respondents, 67% of them, said it's going to cost their restaurant at least $100,000 per location to comply with this new minimum wage law. 26% of these survey respondents said it's going to cost them more than $200,000 per location.
And that's just huge dollar amounts. I mean, think about $100,000 of what otherwise could have been profits. Now, the argument being, well, so you should be paying more anyway if you're making that much money, but they may not even be making $100,000 of profit, right? If you're familiar with the margins that some of these restaurants make, not all of them produce that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And Nick, I don't know if you have it handy, but I'd ask if you could maybe put up table 3, because that one really shed some interesting light on
Yeah,
things. A
that's the one I
majority
wanted
of
to chat about. Yeah.
Yeah, majority of the restaurants, 98% of them have said that they have already raised menu prices. 89% of them have reduced employee hours. 73% of them have limited employee shift pickup or overtime opportunities. And 70% of them have either reduced staff or consolidated positions. In other words, they've either laid off people or they have not hired. They're doing more with less. And so the concern here is that when you raise the minimum wage to such a dramatic price, that businesses are going to find a way to adjust, and they're going to keep adjusting until, frankly, they go out of business. And this I think chart really does show what they've done already just in the last 4 or 5 months to comply with this new law, or what the cost of compliance has been. And then Nick, if you could go to table 4,
You know,
because,
before you do that, Bert, let's just when you talk about till they go out of business, I don't know that that is going to be what I think the concern will be. Of course, that may happen for some locations and some restaurants, and you know, I agree with your concept that this is a trend that who knows what kind of impact we'll see across the rest of the country, but already today, restaurants, in particularly in this space of the restaurants, at fast food, as we think about it, they just employ less people. I mean, they're going to fight to keep their business and their revenues, but they're just going to have less people. I already go in today and you can't pay with cash because they don't afford someone to handle a register. You have to pay at a kiosk. You have a couple people working, a drive-through window, but for the most part, they're putting in automation processes and methods that are eliminating the need for people. And that's in response to already an increasing minimum wage. If Mikey was on here, he would talk about the real working minimum wage, which, sometimes doesn't matter what the federal or state minimum wage is. Not many people are paying $7.25 to hire people. So when you raise it to that level, you do have one of two outcomes. I'm either going to go out of business or I'm going to eliminate people in their hours. And that's what we see on your survey there is we're going to eliminate people in hours. And that's the unintended consequence I don't think they're trying to achieve. That's jobs.
I don't think that's what they're trying to achieve. But really interesting, Phil, is I dug into this study, and I'm going to challenge you on what you said there, because I said that they're going to keep businesses are going to keep finding ways to cut costs all the way up until they actually go out of business. So,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
you said that's not, you don't think they're going to do that, but at some point, they can only cut so much costs before the business becomes literally inoperable or completely unprofitable. And so if you dig into the survey, 89% of these business owners said they are less likely to expand inside of California. 59% said they are more likely to expand outside of California. But here's the shocker. 74% of these survey respondents say that there's an increase in the likelihood of shutting down their restaurants because of this increase in the minimum wage.
Fair
And
enough.
so, yeah, so I think I think in theory, you're right that no one wants to go out of business, but at some point, the cost, if you can't make a profit, or if you're going to operate at a loss, you're going to close down. And I think that, again, this survey, which does have a 7% margin of error, really does bear this out, that when you're saying when 3/4 of these businesses are saying this new law is increasing the likelihood of us shutting our restaurants down, that's a significant number.
Yeah, and just to counterpoint argue my own self here, there are restaurants near my home where I live, and over the last few years, I have stopped to drive through and grab something to eat, and they'll be closed because they can't hire the workers. Now, a basic assumption is, oh, well, then just pay them more. If I could pay a person more and stay open and make money, I would do that. Mm-hmm. If I can't pay people more and it's just better to close because I don't have, the ability to be profitable at that point, well, then I close my doors during those hours. And I am seeing that where they're just operating less hours or they don't have the staff to do that. Mm-hmm. I see Matt shaking his head only because I know he and I have talked about that before in his neighborhood as well. It's just there's places you drive through, you expect them to be open and they're closed due to staffing. That's not because they won't pay more. It's because the economics say, if I do pay more, I'm not going to make money. So why pay more and stay open?
Yeah, they one of two things. They either can't find the people at the rates they're paying, and if they have to pay more, the economics don't work out. So I think you're exactly right. So let's just take a peek real quickly at this table 4, because table 3 showed what restaurants have already done just in the past 4 or 5 months or so in light of this new law. And table 4 here shows what restaurants believe they'll have to do in the next year in order to complete, cover the costs of this new law. 93% of those restaurants say they're going to have to raise menu prices. 87% say that they're going to reduce employee hours. 74% say they're going to reduce staff or consolidate positions, and 71% say they're going to limit employee shift, pickup, or overtime opportunities. So again, I think these are kind of those unintended consequences. Now, the thing that gets me though, Phil, is that we think they're unintended consequences, but certainly the people who are passing these laws have to recognize that at some point the burden on the employer is going to get so extreme that this is going to be the result. And I just I'm not smart enough to figure out what sort of the end game is here, why they're trying to do this and target the fast food industry specifically.
I think you're smart enough to figure out what's behind that. There's hundreds of millions of dollars or donations to political campaigns that might be behind that, Burt.
Well, maybe unionization efforts and
that's what I mean,
those types of things. And if you raise the minimum wages of the lowest tiered employees, the theory is that that's going to have a ripple effect and force the wages in all other industries to move up, including those unionized industries. So
maybe have that effect.
Maybe there is. Yeah, maybe there is something to that.
And it will have that effect. We all know. Hey, we're competing. If I see the number $20 per hour and I think about, what some of our employees do and the rates that they make, and I'm like, man, if I got to compete with that, I'm going to have to pay them more because we have some really smart, very good people that work for us. And we pay a nice competitive wage and they can earn more than that, but it's where you start at. And if I'm competing with that, it does, that low tide's going to raise everything across the board.
Well, that's right. So, I mean, if you think about it, $20 per hour, if somebody's working, 2,000 hours a year at that, that's $40,000. And $40,000 to work at a fast food restaurant is a significant sum of money and does get into competing with other businesses. It might compete with other jobs that are a whole heck of a lot more stressful, like, an administrative assistant job or, a factory job. And, so all of those things that have a lot more stress and maybe risk of injury and horrible work environments. And you'd say, you know what, I can give all of this up, go make the same amount of money working at a fast food restaurant with very low stress, and I'm going to go do it. So, the idea isn't to get people to quit those jobs. The idea is to put the pressure on those other jobs to up their pay.
Yep, absolutely. Burt, that's really good insight. I appreciate you sharing that. One more time where they can find the those results from that survey, the Employers Policy Institute.
Employment Policies Institute. July 2024 study called Crisis in California.
Absolutely. All right. Maybe we can put that out on our site and give a link to that. Let's get to you, Matt Wideman. I appreciate that, Burt. Thank you. As always, good insight. Matt, maybe we can get some good insight to you on what's happening in training and organizational development with the customers and members that you're dealing with each and every day. Just to give someone some insight, when I walk out of the office, I look across and I can see Matt's head. Right. And I can look across the cubicles and he's got headphones on and he spends his day, almost every hour of his day on the phone talking about training and development with some business, an HR leader, a CEO, someone that's trying to, enhance the skills of their employees. So I thought it'd be a good idea if we can say, hey, Matt, give us a peek inside your, everyday work and what you're doing. So if we can get some insight, Matt, as to some of the trends that you're seeing in conversations with our members, let's just start with that. What are the trends for this year that you see in 2024 this far?
Sure. Yeah. It's kind of the greatest hits that we've had over the last few years, continuing, but a little bit more focused in certain areas of those, specifically talking about leadership training. And we talk about leadership training, then that's kind of a broad topic, but it's really about developing the skills of your people leaders. And that's where I'm seeing the trend is both at current supervisors who have probably been in their job for a bit that have never had people leadership training. So how do they lead better teams? How do they communicate better to their folks that work for them? How do they coach them better? So supervisors have been in the role maybe 2 or 3 years who've been promoted into those roles of leading teams, but have not had any formalized training. Going back to our original question, what are you focusing training on? They've probably trained them on operations, and those people are probably their best operators. When we think about frontline supervisors, they know the processes, they know the business the best, they know how the business runs, they're the most dependable people. So we've promoted them up into leadership positions of managing teams, but they may not have provided them training around how to lead people, how to communicate best, how to make sure they're motivating their team, how to delegate effectively. So those are really the focus that what we're seeing is I'm seeing people in their current roles that have been leading people for a while, where they're now finally getting around to training them, or our most proactive members, if you will, are planning ahead around succession planning, and they're starting at that lead level. That folks who are leading by example, they are the best performer on a team. They're providing them leadership skills to step into that supervisor role in the future. So those are in the leadership roles. That's what I'm seeing.
So when I think about the business trend survey that we do every year, and I share those results regularly, and here we are 6 months after we shared those results. Those results, just as a reminder, was business leaders, the C-suite was saying that their focus and concerns for this year, their major concerns, short and long term, was retention of employees, recruiting new employees, and the ability to pay competitive wages. We just talked about ability to pay competitive wages. I mean, Burt brought some great data to that. One of the things that we hear often is, you know what, it just makes sense for me to stay an hourly employee and not move into management because the pay differential isn't that different. And Mikey would tell us, well, we have this compression that's occurring. And when I get there, I'm not going to get trained to be effective at my job. So I want to go back to what you were saying related to that. You said they get operational training, whatever their business is, right? They get trained on their business operational performance, but that's not leadership training. What are the things that you're teaching in leadership training, as we refer to it generically? Break that down from a generic standpoint into like some topical skills.
Yeah. So typically kind of the one that's most commonly requested and the most popular is basic communication skills. Some of these supervisors that are promoted, they just need help on how to communicate more effectively to their team members. And what is that communication? Typically, the most common complaint is my leaders don't know how to have difficult conversations.
Yeah.
They don't know how to have that conversation with that underperforming worker to get them up to performing where they need to. They don't know how to give them good feedback. They don't know how to coach them live as they see them performing under the expected level of performance. So those are that's the top one. Obviously, is communication, coaching, providing feedback. Things as simple as delivering performance appraisals. As we've trended back and forth to people doing performance appraisals annually or doing curbside coaching or just doing them quarterly, whatever it is, they don't know how to provide good feedback around performance appraisals. What I always tell people about performance appraisals, we never want that to be a surprise. So we need to make sure the supervisors know how to deliver feedback live in a timely fashion to what that performance appraisal is going to be at the end of the year.
And these aren't skills that most people, are born with and come forward with. I mean, they really are skills that one have to be taught and then two have to be practiced.
Right.
So we only have about 5 minutes left, Matt. Let's talk about the obstacles. So what I'm hearing you talk about when I walk by your desk, not that I'm eavesdropping, but I am. What I'm hearing you talk about is how are you going to deliver that training, because I'm just too busy. I can't let people be away and spend the day lollygagging around at AIM all day.
Right.
What are the obstacles that you find yourself overcoming, and how are you achieving that?
Sure. Typically, like you said, the obstacles that I hear most often is I can't afford to have, 6 of my supervisors be off the floor at the same time. They have shifts to cover. They have work to get done. They have to do the production part of their job to pay the bills, right? To keep the business running. The second one is I have people in multiple locations, whether they have multiple facilities, multiple offices, the people are remote. How do I train them if I can't get them together or I can't afford to get them together? So what we have.
And what you mean by afford, what does that mean to you when you say that?
Yeah. So, if they have people in multiple locations, they can't fly them into one location to have a trainer come to deliver the training. They can't afford to put people on planes. They can't afford to pay hotel overnight stays for them to travel in for training. So when I go to them, I'm coming up with solutions. What solutions can we offer? How do we get your people, trained in a fashion that makes sense for your business to keep it moving? So we have to come up with, strategies around splitting shifts or splitting timing or doing in half days versus full days. And how do we put people in different groups to train that way? The other option is, can we do it remotely? The surge of live online training and virtual training, obviously coming out of COVID, was a huge change to the nature of training. And that's continued to be very strong. So we have to come up with options for our members that can do those types of options to keep them, keep their business running, manage their budgets, offer some options, things like our live online training pass, or all access training pass is a good option that allows them to take training around their schedule, not around ours and not around, accommodating for 6 people to be out of the office. So things they can do on their own. So those are some options we can work with them on, that may be just not the traditional, let's pull 12 people off your floor and put them in a room together at the same time.
So one of the things that I always enjoyed about AIM, when I was a member and before I was the CEO, is that AIM really did work very, very hard to build a solution that I could get my head around and that our leadership team would buy into. And I know in the training world, you kind of have a good, better, best approach that you can take today. You talked about live online training, all access training pass. So for businesses they're saying, look, I need help. I don't have enough money, the affordability. So when you said affordable, one thing is afford to put everybody in one room. I can't afford the time to put them in a room. Another thing is I just don't have a lot of extra discretionary money because I'm paying $20 an hour to my worker, like what Burt just talked about. What options do you have for the organization that truly has, financial constraints, but needs the help?
Yep. So, starting at the kind of the good, better, best, like you referred to, what I always go to first is our on demand. So that's recorded content that people can watch at their desk around their own schedule. That's the most flexible. It's also the most affordable. Beyond that, then we have the live online, and that's more in terms of being flexible because they can do it around their own time, around their schedule, because they're looking ahead at a calendar of a public schedule that we have for classes that they can, again, take from a kiosk or they can take from their own desk. And then the best option is our in-person. But even with the in-person option, we can manage, trying to help them manage their expenses by, it's going to be cheaper for me to send a trainer to their facility than it is for them to send 6 or 7 supervisors to us, whether they're putting them in a car or flying them in. We can send one trainer a lot cheaper than they can, and we can do that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that, Matt. How can people reach out to you if they would like just to have a conversation to understand their options better? What's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. I just send me an email. My name, matt.wideman at aimea.org is the easiest one. So reach out to me and be happy to, you can find my name on the website, my email as well. Happy to set up a call. That's what I do. Like you said, that's what I do all day is work on solutions to get some training to our members.
Phil wants to see you with that headset on even more, Matt.
Yes.
Oh yeah. He walks around with the headset on, but the cable is still, it's not wireless. And I'm like, Matt, you got to plug that cable in. I can see it's not plugged in. You're not really talking to anyone. You're not fooling me, Matt.
Matt, you need to get one of these wireless ones like I have here.
Probably
Plus Burt looks so cool when he wears that.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I'm going for, Phil.
Yeah. All right. Hey,
I got to do something.
Matt, thank you for joining Burt. Thank you for that insight. That's a great study. I'm going to dive into that a little bit more. I appreciate both of you. Producer Nick, as always, thank you very much. We will be back here next Thursday, 7:30 Central Time. We'll see you then. Until then, go be good to somebody. Bye-bye.
Thank you once again for tuning in to This Week at Work. If you enjoy the show, please share it with your colleagues. Forward our invites. Share the link, aimea.org/This Week at Work, or follow or subscribe wherever you get your news and entertainment. LinkedIn, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, we're everywhere you are. Don't forget you can be part of the show. Send your questions and comments anytime to info@thisweek.work. We'll see you next week, 7:30 a.m. Central Time, when we discuss what's happening this week at work.